a second. Dude, I think we did it. I think we're live.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Shuttle, welcome back to the prime time. Guys, we here at Happy Corrupted Wargaming are thrilled to have all of you nerds here with us. We love you very dearly, and we're excited to freaking run this thing down. So we got Mr. Shuttle in the house. If you don't know him, he is the official admin of the Happy Corrupted Wargaming Discord server. He is the basically the rules database. He is the man, the myth, the legend. Everyone loves him, and I'm very grateful to have you here, my friend. Hope you had a Merry Christmas.
I did.
And we got some people in chat. We got Mr. Reb. We got Jumaine. We got James Ferrier Mooney. It might be a little ASMR-y, but not full ASMR. And we even got double Rainbow Gaming. Look at that. Hey guys, welcome to the live stream. Love having you all with us. Guys, today we have all of the freaking Grotmas detachments that we possibly can have.
Wait a second.
And this is pretty freaking exciting to me. So I'm ready to freaking run this down, dude. First things first, I love Grotmas. This was awesome. I hear a lot of negativity and a lot of people moaning on the internet about it. Guys, we were all just given gifts. Not a single thing was taken away from anyone either, except for Armor Contempt. That was actually taken away from you. Say lovey. But besides that, we just have so many cool things that are really exciting to start cooking with. As we go through this detachment, as we go through this tier list, we're going to be ranking these in a couple different ways. One, raw power is really important as we're going through the detachments. We're certainly going to be speaking about that. But two, we're going to be talking about the flexibility and the new options that these detachments give the existing armies. Because in all reality, guys, there are so many builds that are going to be coming out of some of these new detachments that no one can see yet. And having new options will increase the diversity of which you can build your list with, and which will increase future potential as well. So we're going to be factoring that in as we're ranking these detachments as well. Shato, do you want to give us a few examples of what we mean when I'm saying that?
Yeah, so first of all, right, there have been, I think there's been like 0 tournaments that have had all the detachments in. I think there was a single grand tournament the weekend before Christmas. Don't even know if they allowed for the Grotmas detachments. So a lot of the people that would be building lists and playing lists and seeing results aren't active. They aren't posting, and they aren't putting in results. What does this remind us of? It is almost exactly like the beginning of 10th, when we all just had index detachments.
You got it.
So what happened then? We had a lot of people looking at, for example, Deathwatch. Everyone ran Deathwatch. Deathwatch was the army to pick. Then the WTC happened, and then Deathwatch fell off the face of the earth. Everyone ran Dark Angels and Gladius. And then nothing actually changed, except that people saw that, oh, this is a much more fun way to run Space Marines.
Yeah, there was no rules differences, right? It was literally just the meta evolved because people learned how to deal with certain builds.
Yeah, the Deathwatch got a little bit of a nerf after that, but the tournaments almost immediately after the WTC that had list locks after the WTC almost exclusively overnight shifted to Deathwing Knights in Gladius.
And that's one of the really cool things that we see in the meta with how flexible this game is. Sometimes there might be a list that everyone says, boom, this is busted, this is the thing. But what you notice is a lot of times the meta shifts around it. So I'll give you a quick example right here. Everyone knows Star Shadow Arsenal for Necrons is going to rank pretty high. It will rank pretty high. I'm not saying it's the top, but it's going to be pretty high, okay? And everyone knows, oh, it's overpowered, it needs to be toned down. But guys, like 6 of these detachments straight up hardcore counter Star Shadow Arsenal. So it's like, just because something is obviously really powerful does not necessarily make it the best. So that's what we're going to include. And Neil, Adams, to answer your question, yeah, bro, as well as best and most competitive, we will 100% be pointing out what our favorites are. So worry not. Guys, we're going to have a goal for this evening. We're going to have a super chat goal. 10 super chats. I love you all. If you guys have questions, we're happy to answer them. And this will go directly to funding my baby and beer fund and Mr. Shettle's beer fund when I see him. And whoever gives us the highest super chat, we will build I will at least build a competitive list for you live on stream, and we'll break all that down for you. So thank everyone for attending, and let's just freaking break this down. Shettle, you ready to do this?
Let's go.
All right. I am going to grab one of these at random. I'm not going to grab them in the order that they're listed because that was just the order they were released in. Let's go ahead and start with a really fun one. Let's start with the freaking Gene Stealer Cults. The new Gene Stealer Cults, the final day. This detachment, in my opinion, on it, if I was ranking this on how cool it is, it gets an S. If I'm ranking on something power, we're going to talk about it a little bit different, but still quite good. Shetzel, what are your initial thoughts on? I'm just going to place it in B. It's not actually in B yet, guys, by the way. Oh, and actually, let's define what A, B, and C is real fast. Sorry. S tier is something that is just the rules are not fair and it needs to be toned down. A tier and B tier are going to effectively be the same thing. Both of them are very competitive, very playable, and you can do really well with your builds. A tier is just a little easier to do well with than B tier. C tier is you're gonna have to really work for it, but it's still playable and it's usable. D tier, of which there are not many, are gonna be this sucks and just needs help. Is that fair to
Yeah,
say?
if it's in C tier, that's what I would call faction specialist area, right? You
Still
need to be a faction specialist to win GTs with C tier, but everyone can win GTs with A and B.
and
For example.
totally still usable at C tier. C tier does not mean it's bad. I really want us to stop thinking in terms of this is good, this is bad. I want us to start thinking in terms of what can I do with the options given to me. That's what I want us to start
Yeah,
thinking about.
it's all about potential and how much effort do you need to put in to make it work.
Exactly. All right. Let's start breaking this down. We have The Final Day by the Gene Stealer Cults. Shuttle, what were your initial thoughts on this one? And what do you think that we can do with this?
So this is one of those interesting detachments that are bringing back something a lot of people missed, which is like the whole faction souping
Yeah.
type setup.
So cool.
And it's specifically doing it with the Vanguard keyword, right? So whatever worked in the Vanguard detachment, you can also bring that here. Specifically, it needs to have it on the actual datasheet, so you can't like bring a winged prime with warriors and then that works, right?
Mm-hmm.
It needs to have it on the datasheet. And I think it gives Gene Silicals some very interesting plays.
Yep.
I think that Gene Silicals as a baseline already have fairly good detachments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they lose anything in this by running this.
Mm-mm.
And I think they gain interesting combinations with this. So first initial thoughts, it's at least A.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking as well. One of the really sick things about this detachment, in my opinion, is it gives something that does not exist in the game right now, and that is straight up a 15 lone op army. like like what you can do with the amount of infiltrators and the amount of lone ops in this army is gonna be absolutely bananas. I think people are really excited to be able to run the winged tyrant with Gene Stealer Colts. I think that might be a little bit of a trap. Talking to some of the guys in the members Discord, which everyone should join the members side of the Discord. You can sign up by becoming a YouTube member or a coffee member. Links in the description down below. We've already had a lot of conversations about this, but that winged tyrant being able to run with Gene Stealer Colts is sick. But I think he might be a trap because we're going to want to be spamming lictors, neuro lictors. How many lone ops can we pack into this army? I think it's awesome. So I agree with you, man. I'm right up there in A tier. I think it gives you so many flexible builds. That it's sick. And it's 1,000 point limit, not a 500 point limit, which is really unique for all these allied detachments.
And another thing to consider while you're going that, like the winged tyrant might be a trap, in that the winged tyrant is such a different type of model than you have in Gene Stealer Cult otherwise. Because you want like a lot of different units being very effective. If you put a lot of points and attention into one specific model, that might be something that goes like counter to how the rest of the army plays, so it becomes a
Yep.
little bit dissonant.
Now, this is perfect because
And
this
that
leads us into our first super chat of the evening. Mr. Neil Adams, you freaking legend. We appreciate and love you. He asks, what do you think about some of the detachments requiring multiple codexes? Seems like buy-in might stop people wanting to run them. Well, I'll give my response, and then I'm going to ask for Shuttle's response here. Honestly, man, I love it because the reality is you are not forced to run these new detachments. You didn't lose anything. Your codex is still valid. Your indexes are still valid. This is a new way to play if you have the options or if you want to build into the new way to play. You're not forced into doing anything. It's not taking any options away from you. I think these new ally detachments are absolutely sick and they just provide for brand new ways to play the game. If you want to expand into it, go for it and have a freaking party. If you don't, have a party with your current codex. Shetta, what are your thoughts?
I think that there is something to the slight concern in that uh, some of these might give an impression that you need more stuff to run the latest and greatest.
Yep.
But I think a lot of these detachments aren't necessarily aimed towards getting new players into the hobby.
Yeah.
I think this is a lot about making sure that there isn't a stagnation for existing players.
Totally fair.
Because that's a thing that happens over the life cycle of these games.
Mm-hmm.
People get a little bit bored, things become stagnant. We've had slow codex releases.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be like a little stopgap. And a lot of people have these armies already, or they have similar aesthetics, and they've
Yeah.
been like thinking, do I want to like start a little bit of this army and so forth. So the allied detachments, right? You have Mech and Knights, you have Gene Stealers and Tyranids, you have Chaos Knights and Cultists and stuff.
Yep.
Those are things that complement each other
Yeah.
very well already, and a lot of people already have those armies. So being able to combine them in new and creative ways
So sick.
might incentivize, like, okay, it's not a big investment for me to buy 2 boxes of Skitarii and a Tech Priest, right? So, and I already have a Knight army, so then, let's try it out.
My boy is preaching, spitting facts. All right, so with that, let's move on to the next one. So we're gonna actually, you know what? I'm gonna go straight up Shadow Throne right here on us, and let's talk about the freaking Adeptus Custodes. Now, listen, guys, this is a perfect example of people who are talking about, oh, but you have to buy an entire new faction. Well, you don't have to buy a new faction to play this Custodes, but you do have to buy some new models, right? So, what the new Custodes is detachment is requiring is it's not even requiring it, it's encouraging the use of Dreadnoughts, which is a unit that you could not possibly run previously. And that's why this detachment is awesome. It gives you brand new options, and it's pretty good. I've played it a few times. I've played against it a few times now, and having the Dreadnoughts to be an actual viable option truly changes the way the army plays, which is really, really sick. I think this is a perfect example of what a Grotmas detachment really should be. It's about increasing options for the army. And I absolutely love it. It is strong. It is good. It still fundamentally suffers from the same issues as Custodes in general, but some of the Dreadnoughts absolutely also solve problems. And now suddenly we have the Galladus, who has that flat damage 3. Now we have the Telemon, who actually can survive on something. So there are a lot of really cool options that Custodes give us, and I think it's good. I think it's strong. I think it's solidly in B. Shetel, do you have any thoughts on that one?
If it is in B, it is in top of B. I would almost say that the potential builds here make it a tantalizing bottom of A potentially.
Okay. All right, I can
But
see that.
at least top of B, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because
think
I
I
mean,
understand your argument.
you already have very strong data sheets,
Mm-hmm.
and they do just about the same here as they did in oh, I forgot the name of the other one, Shield Host.
Oh, shit, yeah,
And
that's the damage. Yeah.
yeah, and they do roughly the same, right? Wardens are still wardens,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that there's now like potential for bikes, I see a lot of people talking about bikes. I see a
There's
lot of
potential.
I see a lot of very good players talking
Yep.
about using bikes.
There's potential.
And what the dreadnoughts give you, the benefits to the grav tanks
Mm-hmm.
with the whole reroll when they're being damaged, because
Yep.
those things aren't dying in a single knock,
Generally
right?
not. No. Yeah, generally not.
Um,
So I think it's good. I think
yeah.
we're pretty much on the same space, bottom of A, top of B, and so I think we can move on there for there. But first off, I want to welcome Bonsai Kitty Gaming, you beautiful man. Thanks so much for the super chat, and I really greatly appreciate you joining the Grazia Gets, man. You are now a YouTube member. Make sure to hop over into the Discord and link your YouTube account to Discord so you have access to the member section. Thanks so much. But let's move on to the next one. Custodes awesome. G Circle's awesome. I will say actually real quick, sorry. This is probably a common theme for a lot of these new Grotmas detachments. The units that you want to spam in quotation marks, that the detachment is encouraging you to spam, like this says, oh, you want to run 11 dreadnoughts. I highly encourage you to think not to do it. To be honest with you, with most of these Grotmas detachments, you generally don't want to spam the unit that it looks like you want to spam. I think we'll see the same thing when we come to Orks. We'll see the same thing when we come to most of the detachments outside of Guard, realistically, I would say. So yeah, with that, let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about some of the big boys. We have the Chaos Knights. What do we think about the Chaos Knights, Shuttle?
I will probably disagree with you the most on this
Ooh.
detachment
Okay, let's
out
do
of
it.
all of them,
Let's
maybe.
freaking get into it. I'm gonna drink my Guinness first.
Because I think that there is one datasheet in this detachment that becomes super cracked, but I don't know if it is good enough on its own to make the detachment itself good.
All right,
Because the cultists, I don't feel like benefit enough to make them viable.
Okay.
And I think that 13 war dogs is still just far too efficient.
Okay.
But what are they called in
You're thinking the
Chaos
Lancer, right?
Knights? No, the double Gatling gun, the
Oh, the
spoiler.
Despoilers. Yeah.
With double Gatling gun.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Will kill anything in the game.
Yeah, what is that, like 46 plus 12 shots or something with blast?
Yeah. And no, not the rapid fire battle cannon.
Oh, which one are you talking
The
about?
the Gatling guns.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, because they do like 36 wounds into a Land Raider ish after saves.
Yep.
That is significant.
Now you give them sustained and lethal, and it gets very gross.
Exactly, and you bring like 2 of them.
Yeah.
Then there's legs. Like I would say, it's probably B tier, but like near the bottom of B tier.
Yeah, you know what? So when I looked at this one, I think it's close to the index. It's a little bit different. So my initial thoughts was I was like, let me run a Rampager and a Lancer now. Because now I have 2 units that are going to walk through the walls. I'm going to give advance in charge to the Lancer. The Rampager already has advance in charge. The Rampager already has sustained. And we're just going to activate that Doom and Darkness immediately and just back it up by Brigands. And I'm going to have my Cultist that I don't care trading out for a free area denial and then letting them die. So I think there's a lot of flexibility in this detachment, which is really cool because you can do things like the Despoilers you were talking about, and then you can do things.
Yeah, like you already hear us talking about very different builds with the same.
So I love it. I think B is probably a great place to put it for right now. I think we can just sit it right down right there. Let's move on to the next one, and I'm gonna have you talk about this one a little bit. I'm just gonna shut up and give you the floor, man. Let's do the Halo Screed Canticle or whatever it's called. Freaking AdMech. Go for it, baby. Cook.
Okay, so with AdMech before, we had the Skitaru Hunter cohort. What we did there was mostly just survive and kill just about enough. We had some shenanigans to move block people in. We had shenanigans to like be a little bit effective. With Halo Screed, we can do just about the same thing, but it unlocks some potential units and some potential damage and some interactions we didn't necessarily have before.
Yeah.
That makes our already good data sheets even better, right? So I think there's one datasheet that benefits from this attachment more than the others, and it's the fact that you can bring the Fulgurites and give them advance and charge while they are within the transport. And that's the key part here, because then you can stand behind the wall, disembark out 3 inches, move 6, advance D6, and then charge. And you only need a 5-man unit with the priest and the enhancement to kill just about anything in the game. They do about 7 wounds to a Norn emissary. They outright kill Vindicators.
Oof, it's awesome. Such a good build.
I believe it's like an 80% probability of just like flat out killing a Vindicator.
That's such a good.
And that's not considering the Dev Wound Flamer on the priest itself.
Oh, perfect.
So this is like a solidly good detachment that takes an already good army and just gives it more options and more damage potential.
And if you guys are new to Happy Grumpy Wargaming, we have slightly different opinions than some other competitive channels. So Shetel is an AdMech specialist, and guys, AdMech is good. Now, to be fair, their entire codex needs some help, but like at least Scutari Cohort was very good, and now this one is a little bit better. And I think this detachment is honestly a great template for how detachments should be made. It allows you to play new stuff with different power level, and it doesn't break the data sheets. So I think this detachment rocks. I'm super happy to put it. I think you're getting at maybe mid to bottom of A. Is that right?
I'm thinking near the top of A because AdMech was already near the top of A, and this detachment just gives it even more.
And guys, if you're thinking about why Shetel might be saying it's at the top A, but win rates are down, one of the things that we like to talk about is we like to talk about what's in your power as the player. So we like to talk about potential, not necessarily ease of use, always.
And you have to
Yeah.
consider that when it comes to the stats that came out from the Tabletop Battles app,
Mm-hmm.
that's not necessarily all competitive play. It is simply games logged with it.
Yeah, and I need to do a video on that. So if you guys don't know what we're talking about, Tabletop Battles app, Goonhammer wrote an article on it, and shout out to the guys at Goonhammer, they rock. And they compiled a lot of stats for all the Grotmas detachments, not all of them, but a lot of them, that were just played in casual games from the Tabletop Battle app. And there were some really funky, wild numbers, but these were just games. So it could have been like Innes Wilson playing a practice game against someone whose was their very first game that was calculated, right? So it's like it's not exactly reliable information, but it is interesting to see some of those stats, and maybe I'll make a video on that if people are interested for it. All right, so let's move on. We are moving on into let's just go ahead and do it. Let's get it out of the way. Let's talk about Thousand Suns. Now here's the deal, guys. Thousand Suns detachment. Yes, it's bad, but it's bad in a very specific context. It is bad in the context of the index detachment. Yeah, I would completely agree. This sucks, and no one's ever going to use it. But what I want everyone to understand here is this detachment is written for the Thousand Suns Codex, and we're going to see this repeated with another army later on, with actually, yeah, 2 other armies later on. This detachment is written in the context of the Codex, and when you get a Codex written, there's going to be new freaking data sheets. There's going to be I'm pretty confident that the army rule is getting a rewrite on it as well. Suddenly, when that transfers, this detachment might be something very, very different. So I don't.
And there's also rumors of demons being included into the actual book, which means that they then will be Thousand Sun demons, and
Exactly.
that unlocks, +1 to wound on things like horrors,
Makes
which
a
then
big
all of a sudden
difference.
become terrifying.
And just because Cooper's in the chat, shout out Mr. Boss Cooper. What's up, buddy? He wants to know why the Thousand Suns are not in the trash tier. I will rename it for you. It is trash. It's the dumpster. D for dumpster. Done. For you, bud. I love you. All right. Let's go ahead and do the next one. This is going to be one of the detachments that I think was just horribly overlooked, and it just got lost because it came out early. Let's do the Lion's Blade Task Force. Bro, I freaking love the Lion's Blade Task Force. There are so many great things in this detachment. I just feel like no one is really thinking about it simply because it was so darn early. But like realistically, now we have Samael leading a unit of Outriders who goes to damage 3 with sustained hits 2, moves straight through walls, gives +2 to charge to all the Deathwing Knights that are coming out of Deep Strike, or the Redemptor Dreadnought that's coming out of Deep Strike. Everyone is super hot and high on the new freaking Oath of Moment changes right now for your vanilla Marines. But guess what? In this detachment, you can get +1 to wound on all of your Deathwing units, which include the Repulsor Executioner, the Land Raider Redeemer, the freaking the Redemptor Dreadnoughts, all these things. You can get +1 to wound on anything, on any of those. You don't even need to be targeting the Oath of Moment target. This detachment is awesome, and it has crazy, crazy jank. This detachment cannot be move blocked. I cannot stress how incredibly important it is to just say, you're not allowed to be move blocked, because now at the end of your opponent's charge phase, you can spend 2 CP. Expensive, I know. But now you get to make a charge up to 6 inches if a unit's within 6 inches of you. And suddenly your slow moving units get to move in your opponent's turn, annihilate them in their turn. You can't be move blocked. Like, how powerful is that? This detachment is awesome. I think this is very representative of what an A tier army looks like. It has answers for every scenario in the game, and I am freaking here for it. Are you on my same energy, or are you a negative Nancy? I'm just kidding. By the way, I actually
I
just want your opinion.
I I wish I had more Dark Angels available than I do.
Yeah.
Because this sounds like my cup of tea.
Dude, I love it.
I think this is potentially one of those that will be overlooked.
It's so good, though.
And then someone like Innes or someone that plays a lot of Dark Angels.
Well,
Will
your boy
play
might
this.
start playing it soon, so.
Fair enough. Fair enough. If you need a lion, I have one unassembled.
My guy.
Like so if you look at, like, for example, what Olivier did at the WCW with the Raven Wing detachment, right? Nobody thought about that, but then it comes out and then it's like, oh crap, that's actually good.
Yeah.
Like, this might be one of those.
Oh, and actually, people might not know what you're talking about. Let's just give me a 30-second spiel on what that list was and what it did, just so, because people,
Okay,
I hear people talk about, oh, Dark Angels Codex sucks, but it doesn't. So, like, just do this for people real quick.
So before the data slate, the detachment allowed any Dark Angels unit to advance and shoot and fall back and shoot.
Yep.
The enhancements did nothing because there's no character except for the chaplain on bike that can actually do that.
Or command squad, right? The command squad can do it as well. Raven Wing command squad.
I don't think they could bear the enhancement.
All right, cool. Well, just move. That's fine.
But either way, yeah. So it did nothing. So it was an army with no strats, no enhancements, and only a good army rule. And then you take like a basic Ironstorm list with the lion, and then you just push it at the enemy.
And it wrecked.
Worked really good. It went 5-3 because I came against it and I was like, I don't know how to handle this right now.
Dude, so I love that, right? And that's what all these Grotmas detachments are giving us. Maybe not that exact experience, but where there's new ways to build that people have not seen before. So, guys, if you're a little sad about your detachment or something, work with it. Work with it. Trust me, you're going to find stuff that other people haven't seen. You're going to be able to come up with some creative things. And if you want help with that, you can always shout at your boy and hop in the Discord or book a coaching call, and we can explore it together. All right, so we talked about Lion's Blade solidly in B. Let's do another one. Let's look at the Sisters of Battle. Now, here's my opinion, guys. I'm going to put Sisters of Battle in C. And bear with me here. It's not because the detachment is bad. I actually think this detachment is quite darn good. People are talking about, oh, but the Army of Faith is just better. It's not. It has very different strats that just have completely different use cases. I think the reason why I have to put this detachment in C is because it came out with the balanced data slate, which just nuked Sisters. And I'm totally open to other opinions on this. The viability of this detachment gives you some really, really new options. A 6-inch pylon and consolidate that does not have to end closer to the closest enemy model is bananas. I think it's the strongest stratagem in the game, like bar none. The ability to take 5-man sacrosants that just go up to OC2 really helps with some of the MSU OC spam problems that Sisters have. Getting your Zephyrim up to strength 5 and AP 3 on their power swords is a huge deal. I think this has the tools that it needs to play really well, and I like the detachment. I think it's being held back by the fact that their army was just nuked. Shetel, thoughts?
Yeah, you need to sort of be a Sisters faction specialist to get the most out of this now. You can't just take good stuff and push it forward and win.
Yep.
So that's sort of like baseline C tier.
Yeah, so I think we're basically completely agreed. It's a good detachment. Yeah. The army got blitzed, so that's gonna make it a little challenging. So let's move on to the next one then. Let's look at Creations of Bile, one of my preferred detachments that has been released. Dude, can I just say, Possessed being used warms my heart. I have maintained the entire edition that Possessed are a lot better than people were saying. People are like, oh, but they're only AP1. They don't do anything. It's like, well, then take a Sorcerer and Terminator armor. Make them AP2. Well, but then you have to take a unit. Yes, synergy exists in this game. Now, this detachment just brings them to the next level. I love it. You can get them to T7. You can get them to Weapon Skill 2. I freaking love what you can do with Possessed in this detachment. I think Creations of Bile is awesome. I think they're clearly A tier, or at least the top of B tier. And I think you're going to see some really, really sick ways of running them. You could just do full infantry carpet. You can do castle with infantry strike squads. There's a lot of different things that you can do, and it's very flexible because you get to re-roll the buffs that you choose. So, or the buffs that you get. So if you take Bile, which you'll always take Bile, you get to get 2 of the buffs. And even if you say roll a ballistic skill and you don't have any shooting in your army, you can re-roll the ballistic skill. And if you get stuck with ballistic skill, well, maybe you have 1 unit of obliterators that likes that ballistic skill. You'll be fine. Trust me. This detachment is awesome and has a ton of flexibility. Shuttle thoughts.
I think that this unlocks yet another really good detachment for Chaos Space
I think
Marines.
it's so good. It's so good. So cool.
This is probably like the first S tier, I think.
Ooh, pitch me on S tier.
Because
like you actively think it needs to be toned down. Pitch me.
I am not sure if it needs to be toned down or not.
Okay.
But it just does so much with such good data sheets. That I think it unlocks a build. Because I've played, for example, the vanilla list that won a GT recently. I have played that, and I'm not sure how you properly stop it if they get, for example, +2 move as well as +1 attack, for example.
Yeah.
Because then they will just run you down.
That's a lot of damage coming out of those possessed squads, dude. With rerolls, fishing for dev wounds.
Because it's a melee detachment that gives like potentially +2 to move across the board. Potentially extra attacks, making the entire army hit on 2. Access to resurrecting models. Access to reroll to wound. That's just good. That's just super good.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's tentatively start it in S. We're gonna have this as our first S candidate, and if we need to rebalance, we will. But we can start it up there because I understand everything you're saying. I see it.
Yep.
I get it, and I love it. By the way, I think this detachment. Like I don't think it needs to be toned down personally, but I think
it essentially gives Chaos Space Marines access to a Catan as well.
Kinda.
A 7 wound Catan, but with a 2-up armor save.
Why don't you tell people what you're talking about when you're talking, because you're doing the Sorcerer Lord, right?
No, Terminator Lord.
That's what I meant, Terminator Lord.
Yeah, so you have a Terminator who has half damage, 6 wounds base, 2-up armor save, 4-up invul.
Yeah.
And then you give it +1 wound and Final Pain 5-up. That's just like straight up a 7 wound Catan.
I mean, it doesn't hit anywhere near what a Catan hits, but like I get what you're saying.
No, but it doesn't need to, right?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I think it just has so many options. I think it's really cool. I personally don't necessarily think it needs to be toned down. I think people just need to understand that it's okay for melee to be good as well as shooting. But I think we'll learn how to deal with it. Like, for example, I mean, 1 exocrine can still ruin a possessed unit's entire day. Like it's like there is counterplay to it, guys. It's just new and it's gonna take people a bit of time to adapt. But let's leave it in S for right now, and we'll move on to the next one. So let's get a little bit more Imperial with it. Let's talk about the Librarius Conclave. I actually love Librarius Conclave. Everyone's seen the damage combination, the crazy Stirring Guard. I'm gonna cause 26 mortals, and you're gonna be boom and dead and blah. And yes, that's real, and it's cool. The reality, though, is you only have 1 of those units. And how are you delivering that unit? Well, it means now you have to run. You're forced to either put them in the drop pod. But I don't think you can't put them in drop pod, because if you give them the leader, I don't think they can fit, right? Your drop pod's only 10. Am I wrong about that?
I think drop pods are 12.
Yeah, are they 12? Well, all right. Or you're taking your Uriel Ventress, which means you are locked to Ultramarines, which you probably won't take Ultramarines anyway. But then you're locked to very, very expensive. So realistically, that unit's gonna shoot once.
I would disagree a little bit.
Ooh, feed me.
Because why are you putting them in a drop pod or Uriel Ventress when you can put them in a repulsor?
Yeah, I mean, that's an option too. I mean, the problem is delivery, right? So if you want to deliver them, you have to spend 200 points to deliver them, right?
But there's a build that I have seen people use that is not Ultramarines, that is Dark Angels.
Yeah.
So you have Kyria, Ezekiel, 3 Librarians, 3 Inner Circle Companions. You have Azrael.
I love the Inner Circle Companions in that. I love that.
right? So that's another different
Yeah,
pressure style build of
big
this,
fan of that.
right? So the detachment allows a lot of growth that isn't necessarily just Ultramarines.
That's true. Very, very good point. So I think the Librarius Conclave is awesome. I think it's really, really cool detachment. I do know that some people are dooming because it's kind of hard to get the librarian keyword, but it's really not. Like Inquisitors give the library, you give the Psyker keyword. Your librarians obviously do it. Your special characters do it. Whether you're doing Ezekiel, Tigerius, freaking Mephiston, he has it. If you wanted to run it in Blood Angels, right? There are a lot of options for it. And I'm kind of here for it. I think it's good. I think it's a solidly B tier army. I think it's good. I think you can do really well with it. What do you think?
I think it should be probably, huh. I think overall B tier.
Yeah,
Maybe if it's like an Ultramarine Librarius, it could compare to A. There's a lot of things to explore there that I
there
haven't
are.
looked at properly yet.
There are. I mean,
But if you look at like just pure Gladius with Ultramarines and stuff, right?
yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Or
it's
Ironstorm.
just like a solid, decent
It
detachment
is,
that you can build interesting stuff from.
and it's going to be a different build, which is cool, which is why I really enjoy it. But it's not busted like everyone's saying. It's like yes, that one unit they think it's busted. No, it's just very strong. But just remember, it dies after it activates.
Yeah, it is still 2 wound
Yeah, dude. I
marines.
mean, it's going to do its thing once. Like, okay, cool. It killed the one thing, and then it's gone. Like,
Yeah, like everything in the game can kill
yeah,
marines.
it's not a
That's
problem.
kind of been the issue. That's why they got a damage buff,
Yeah,
because now the marines can also kill you.
and with people disappear, and with AO's Armor Contempt getting a massive nerf, which I think was a really bad change to the game, by the way. Um, with that going away, suddenly it's not like you're going to struggle to to do offensive things to them. So let's move on to the next round. Let's talk about a army that oh, this is going to get weird, guys. All right, so we're going to talk about Chaos Demons now. And I don't want to do, because I'm not trying to run this stream for 2 hours. So we're going to talk about all the Chaos Demons right now. And we're going to put them in one place. All right. With the understanding that Slaanesh Demons are just better than the others. Fair? Can we just agree on that?
And I don't think anyone properly knows how to judge siege demons yet.
That's true. I agree with you.
That's I can't wrap my head around it, which is, to be fair, very fluffy.
Yeah, totally. So all of these detachments are absolutely awesome right off the bat. I loved all of them. I did a big live stream. I think I like an hour-long live stream where I gave all my thoughts on it. People are severely underestimating how hard it is to avoid moving within 6 inches of Khorne demons. They're like, oh, it's easy. I just don't move within 6 inches of them, and then they don't have an army roll. It's like, yeah, dude. Do you know how hard it is to never move within 6 inches of an enemy unit? If you're trying to get angles to shoot, if you're trying to, because it's based off of you doing a move, advance, or fallback. So it's not based off of your movement phase. So if you're trying to do scoot and shoot, for example, they get to do their charge. It is a very, very challenging thing to do to never move within 6 inches of Khorne. So I think Khorne has great things. Slaanesh, the damage is absolutely cracked. If you guys know Ponder, he's a good buddy of mine. He did a video that we posted on this channel talking about how to fill in certain Excel math sheets to get really the damage output, the true damage output of units. Slaanesh demons have the greatest damage output in the game right now. It's absolutely bonkers what a freaking fiend with full rerolls to hit and wound does. Those keepers of secrets are bananas good. I love them. So I love Slaanesh. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about the freaking Tzeentch? Because I think you've looked into it more than I have, but I've definitely seen it. It's like, ooh, there's some spicy things in there.
I haven't looked at it too much, but it is very interesting. I don't think it is good for singles. I think it is probably the worst attachment for singles.
I would agree. Okay, cool.
Um,
We're on the same page.
um, but it's
Shetzel, I'm so
it's
sorry, buddy. I
so
gotta interrupt
weird.
you right now. We just got a
Go for it,
$100
man.
super chat from Mr. Butt Mountain.
Oh, she.
Bro, thank you so much. Your support means everything in the world. You are a legend, a gentleman, and a scholar. He says, congrats to you, your new addition to your family. She's laying on the couch, she's asleep on top of my wife right now. As a new father myself, watching the little grot grow and develop new skills makes every sleepless night worth it. Wah. Bro, I would wah with you right now, but I don't want to wake up the baby. Thank you so much. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. You're a rock star. Mr. Shuttle, please continue. Sorry for interrupting.
I'm just blinded by the red.
I love the generosity, guys. That was awesome.
Yeah, Siege. So you have a lot of interesting things because the indirect enhancement on the Lord of Change isn't indirect, so you don't take the hit penalty and stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Pinks become very interesting. Flamers. There's a lot of things that become very interesting in that Siege detachment, but I don't know how to properly rate it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better in teams,
It
but
definitely
I
has the
think
best uppy downy ability in the game. Yeah.
yes.
That's awesome.
And then you have the Nurgle detachment, which I mean, Nurgle's my guy. You can tell, right? I am blessed by the grandfather.
You're clean. You don't smell.
Um, Sometimes.
Dude, Nurgle,
But
just
yeah, like I think it is underlooked.
Yeah.
Because I think people just don't properly look at those kind of armies and abilities.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot about the pre-July data slate AdMech, which I still did like fairly okay with. And you're not as durable as you were with like the Endless Gifts Great and Clean one. But if you look at how some of the Nurgle stuff interacts with each other, there's a lot of like, oh, you failed a test. Now one of your very expensive models goes away,
A
and now
Deathwing
your
Knight just
unit
dies.
is. Yeah. And it doesn't specify which model in the unit dies.
Right.
It just says one model from the unit dies.
That's true.
That means you can also pick the leader of the unit.
Brutal.
So now, like, oh, Marnius Calgar failed his leadership check.
Bye. No feel, no pains for you.
Can't feel no pain just being dead.
So I'm gonna do an entire video on Nurgle specifically because I don't think people get it. Nurgle's not meant to kill everything. Nurgle's meant to control the board, and it does it very, very well. I think people are sleeping on that detachment a lot. But I do personally, just because of the way I play, I still think Slaanesh is my favorite of the detachments, but Nurgle is awesome. Quick shout out to Mr. Mass Brofect for the $5 super chat. Merry Christmas to the whole Happy Crumpet Wargaming family. Bro, Merry freaking Christmas to you. I hope you had a blessed one with your family. Appreciate all your support. You're a lovely, lovely lad.
And a thing to note about the demons, by the way,
Mhm.
you don't necessarily have to stick to the god that you are
Yes.
with.
Great
You
point.
can still take Nurglings with Slaanesh.
Plague Bearers.
They just don't have anything that benefits from it, right?
Right. I actually so I was building a Nurgle list and I brought some Flesh Hounds of Khorne, just because that 75 point marks just fit the list, and it gave me a faster unit that can get to places that I needed it to get to. Also, by the way, I think a Rampager solves the Nurgle's damage problem. Just saying. Throw a Rampager in it, you'll be happy. With that, let's go ahead and drop Demons in general. We're just gonna drop them in A because everything about Demons rocked.
Yeah, I think demons are like overall it's like bottom of A tier, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because there's just like a great variety there.
Yeah, and of course there's some flexibility there, guys, right? All
Mm-hmm.
right, moving on. Let's talk about the hunters of the demons. What do we have with the Grey Knights? Do you love the Grey Knights? Because I love the new Grey Knights. I think they're so cool, and it's a beautiful, perfect example of how to give a new way to play an army. I think this is perfect freaking Grotmas gift right here. New way to play an army. This is aggressive Grey Knights, not defensive Grey Knights. What do you think about them?
Well, the way I have looked at it is that Grey Knights got a hit with the Arbor of Contempt changes, with the 6-inch deep strike stuff. So I think this mostly becomes the default detachment, and I think it just enables the Grey Knight playstyle we saw before just a little bit more, right? So
Yep.
if you go back 2 iterations of Grey Knights when everyone had Dread Knights,
Yep.
I think we're back to that now.
Ooh.
3 Libbies, 2 Grandmasters, 3 Nemesis Dread Knights, and like 2 5-man Purifiers or something. I think that's probably what we're going to be seeing a lot of.
I love having this conversation with you because I'm the complete opposite right here when I'm looking at this. I'm looking at like 0 Dread Knights because, yes, they get a moderate increase in damage output, but they lost so much on the defensive end. I think they're completely out because there's no more Mista Daimos. There's no Sigil of Exigence. There's no more AOC. Well, there is AOC, but it only lasts for one activation. So I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum of you. But I'm looking at how can I get these freaking 6-inch deep strike charges with my strikes? How can I get these 6-inch deep strike charges with my purifiers? How can I make sure that my opponent doesn't even have a movement phase? Because if they want to take their movement phase, their entire army is going to take D3 mortal wounds. And then at the end of the fight phase, they're going to take D3 mortal wounds again. Like, that's what I'm looking at with this list. So the flexibility is freaking on point. I think I'm looking at Grey Knights as the top of B because they definitely lost a huge amount of defensive buffs, to be completely fair. But the jank is really cool. Are you comfortable with the top of B?
I think top of B is fine. Yeah.
Nice. Let's do that. Okay. Let's just do it. Let's talk about Imperial Guard, man. Just run with it. I'm not going to speak at all. Just do it.
Okay, so you know how like the highest ranking guard player that wasn't John Lennon?
Yeah.
There's a second John, and he's Canadian. He ran a lot of science and infantry, and that was already like the best data sheet you had in that codex. Now they're +1 to wound. And it's scary. It takes effort, and you can build lists wrong. You can build lists very wrong with this. You can build lists that let you get sort of like you lose all board control, and then you just can't kill because you have to come in from reserves to do it. But if you build the correct list with this, I hope we don't meet Canada at the next WTC if this is still the same. Let's just put it that way. Because yeah,
this army's good, guys. It's bonkers good. It is overtuned, and it might be overtuned in the context of an index and not a codex. To be completely fair, right?
yeah, something might change come January, February
Yeah.
when the book comes out, right?
Yeah.
But as it is right now, this is probably the highest performing guard list you will find, especially after like all the nerfs and stuff.
This thing's bonkers.
The AOC change is so good for this
Oh
because you have so many like activations of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you build some of it to clear the screens, to prepare the landings, then you just get to pick off like 5 units a turn, like when you drop. You just take away 5 units from your opponent. There's not a lot of armies that can handle just losing 5 units.
And there's nothing your opponent can do about it either. It's like, no, you're just dead. You're just dead.
Yeah. It's like, what are you gonna do about that?
The Scions hit so hard. It's insane how hard they hit. Yeah. All right. So this for me, I think this is the best army in the game right now, personally.
I think it is the highest potential army in the game. But it takes effort to learn.
I think that's fair. All right, real quick, we got a super chat, 25 pounds from Mr. Quicks. Bro, Quicks, thanks so much. Happy holidays, hyped about my World Eaters. Happy holidays to you, my friend. And by the way, I'm hyped for your freaking World Eaters. I am so stunned by some of the stuff that people are talking, like the negativity about World Eaters on the internet right now. We'll get to it. I love new World Eaters. I think it's awesome. I don't think it's broken or busted or anything like that, but I think it's awesome. We'll get to that, man. And appreciate you, your super chat. Thanks so much.
By the way, Jonathan, I know you're American, but those are euros.
Oh, euros, whatever. Euros, Monopoly money. Thank you, buddy. Guys, we actually got a really interesting comment here from Mr. Stephen Burton, by the way. Almost 200 people watching and so few likes to the stream. What is going on with that? If you're enjoying this stuff, if you enjoy my man Shetzel, if you enjoy a Guinness, hit the like button, share with your friends. Appreciate you hanging out with us on this lovely Friday evening. Let's move on to the next army. Let's talk about my boys. So I'm going to talk now. We got the boys here. The boys, this is by far my favorite detachment. The Tactical Brigade. I'm throwing them solidly an A. The Tactical Brigade for freaking Orks. Guys, this is like the quintessential example of what the entire intent behind Grotmas was. Here's a new way to play with your toys. Tactical is completely different, opens up a brand new avenue to play everything, and I am so much here for it. I'm like bursting at the seams. I have had so much fun with this detachment. I do not think it's better than Warhorde. I think it's every bit as good as Warhorde, though, and I think it solves a very different problem. I would argue that Tactical Brigade in singles is going to be better than Warhorde. I would argue that Warhorde is likely still better in teams, just because of map selection and teams and opponent selection and the amount of pressure that you can put out with it. But oh my god, I am so pumped about all the changes to Orks, the new tank busters, the new breakaboys. My favorite unit right now, I love a freaking naked unit of tank busters in Tactical Brigade. I love breakaboys. I love breakaboys in Warhorde naked, no leader. They get out, they throw their bombs, they do all these things. It's bonkers, all the new options we have as orc players. And if you're not excited to be an orc right now, I don't know what would excite you. Probably better buggies. That would probably excite you, to be fair. Like, all right, so I do know what excite you if this didn't excite you. But Tactical Brigade is freaking sick. You're always running the flash kits with full rerolls to hit, so more or less bad ruck is back. But now you can also give your flash kits a 4-up invulnerable save if you lead them with a big mech. Shock attack guns become terrifying when they get to reroll hit rolls. If you lead your Ludas with a shock attack gun, suddenly once per game that shock attack gun is going to be hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s to hit, strength 10, AP 5 with +1 to wound. This detachment is everything I needed it to be, and I hopefully my excitement has bled through. It is freaking awesome. It's solidly an A tier. It's going to cause headaches for people at the tabletop. They do not shoot as good as some other shooting armies, but they still hit like orcs. And they have enough shooting now that you can't walk out in the middle of nowhere, which really will screw up your opponent's game plans. This rocks. Shuttle, do you have any comments?
It's basically, what if you gave Catachans steroids and big guns? That's basically that detachment, right? What if
Fair.
you gave them some what do they call it, Tren or something, and big guns?
Trenbolone acetate. Not that I know
Something
anything
like
about
that.
that.
Yep. We are all natty here.
I wrote a thesis on it, guys. I actually am natty. All right, so Tactical Brigade, we love it. It's freaking awesome. It's by far my favorite detachment from Grotmas, even though I love a lot of them. Let's do Eldar. Now, this is one that people hate, and I don't. And I understand. I do agree that they're in C tier, to be clear. I think the reason why people hate the new Eldar with the armored warhost or whatever it's called is simply because the index is the most broken rule set that GW has ever produced, that the data sheets and all of the points have had to be nerfed into oblivion. And because of that, this detachment is bad. It's not that the detachment is bad. It's that the alternative is actually broken, and it has forced GW into nerfing the army into so much that they're unplayable without the broken rules. So I think when we see that Eldar Codex come out, you guys are going to realize, oh, wait, suddenly my units don't cost 2 times what they should cost. And now this detachment actually is very interesting. That's how I think about it.
I would be one of the haters here.
Yeah, you would be.
I would put it right next to Thousand Suns.
All right.
I would put it probably above Thousand Suns because of the general baseline data sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. But this detachment doesn't actually do anything for the army that it didn't do just on the data sheets themselves. Their baseline vehicles already move 14 inches. You don't need assault on them, right? The war walkers already scout. They will be where they need to be.
Yeah.
And Eldar things die, right? You're fragile. Without Fire and Fade, like if this detachment had Fire and Fade, I would be more positive on it. But it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Everyone thought that Fire and Fade would be like the Eldar Armor of Contempt. But it's not. It's the fallback and shoot, I think that's like common in between the two. So I just don't see what this detachment does for Eldar. So D for does nothing is what I would call it.
You want to go D for does nothing? I tell you what. I don't mind, but I'm gonna leave it at bottom of C for right now. I'm gonna leave it at bottom of C here for right now, and I'll tell you why. Because the detachment itself is good. It's a strong ability. You have a 6-inch deep strike with a falcon where you guys can get out and shoot. You have a 6-inch deep strike, say, with a fire prism if you want to play aggressively. So suddenly you can get angles anywhere on the entire table. And when you do so, now all 3 of your fire prisms can shoot from anywhere on the table. And so it's impossible to hide. So I think
but that was already kind of the case, though.
Kind of the case, but not guaranteed the case, right? But I understand what you're saying. I just don't agree. And
That's fair.
I just don't agree.
We probably don't have to spend more time on this.
Pretty
I
much.
think most Eldar are like, yeah, no.
I think most
we're
Eldar
not
players are
going
just salty bears, to be honest with you.
I mean, they're Eldar players, so that, you know.
Imperial Knights, guys. Let's do Imperial Knights. We did the Chaos Knights. Let's talk about the Imperial Knights. I think Imperial Knights is cool. I think it doesn't really, unlike the Chaos Knights, I don't really see a reason to run the new Imperial Knights, to be honest with you.
So I might be able to add a little bit here, because I have actually ran 2 games with it. And I was initially positive on it.
Okay.
Because you have Skitari that end up actually doing a lot. Your Skitari, if they are led by marshals here, actually do quite a fair bit.
Okay.
Because then you can baseline hit on 2s. If you have the correct knights, you can have sustained with rerolls, yada yada yada, right? But that doesn't necessarily give you something you didn't already have with the war dogs and the existing knights, and then you also lose that 6-up feel no pain, which adds up. I think the math is something like the 6-up feel no pain adds to about 5 to 6 wounds to a big knight.
Okay.
And you don't get that by repairing, right? Because with the if you count it being 5 or 6 times more wounds, you still have to get through all those wounds to kill it, right?
Yep.
And then if you are repairing, you need to actually be damaged and not killed. And I don't think there's any armies, any armies that necessarily shoot at big knights that don't also intend to just destroy them, right? So I think like the detachment is interesting.
Okay.
I just think that things are too lethal nowadays.
Sure.
For the repair to matter.
Okay. So where does that put you? Because it sounds to me that you're talking about a C detachment.
That is a C tier detachment. Yeah.
That's what I heard. That's what I was thinking right off the bat. I'll put it ahead of Eldari though. Cool. All right. Let's do another good detachment because I want to get excited here. Let's talk about the Reaper's Wager. I think the Reaper's Wager is sick. Oh geez, sorry, I clicked the wrong button. I think the Reaper's Wager is absolutely sick. And I think it gives us some really cool abilities. Guys, can you say freaking Talos with advance and charge and shoot? I think one of the things that people are really going to struggle with is that they're going to be so focused on how do I get the reroll ones to hit on my Harlequins. The Harlequins are there to help enable some Drukhari, or I'm sorry, the Drukhari are just enabling your Harlequin units. You don't need the Harlequins to enable your Drukhari because your Drukhari already have the power from pain tokens, which are going to be given the reroll to hits anyway. So what you're doing here is you're going to be making suddenly your freaking, what's he called? The Solitaire just annihilates the unit he charges at because he gets the rerolls. Now, suddenly you're going to be able to have the one troop unit actually do what you need the troop unit to do. Your Death Jesters are going to be popping down, causing problems for people. I think the Drukhari are there to enable a few units, the Haywire units for the freaking, or what are they called? The guys with the Haywire shots.
Which ones?
The
Scourge,
Harlequin, the Harlequin
Skyweavers?
Skyweavers, thank you. So the Skyweavers get rerolls from your Drukhari. I think that is where this goes, but you're not trying to build 1,000 points of freaking Harlequins here. The Harlequins are there just to solve a little bit of an extra issue for the Drukhari while the Drukhari army really takes precedence. You're never going to have to really worry about how do you get reroll ones on all your Drukhari because you can always just give a pain token or take a pain token in order to flip the dice, right?
And like how many times have you rolled ones to wound? with lances.
Happens all the time, right? Now suddenly you actually do have an option to. Yeah, I love the detachment. I'm not a Drukhari specialist, and I recognize that. But just looking at it, there's a lot you can do here.
And I don't even think you need the enhancement to flip the wager.
Probably not.
Because it is very simple to engineer that.
Yeah. Getting a scout with a 9-inch scout with a raider, and these units are already so fast with advance and charge. The alpha strike potential here is bananas on both your Harlequin and your Drukhari side. It's really pretty inspiring, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would say like mid of B, just because it is Drukhari and you need a little bit of faction specialism to make this work.
It will take some skill here, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Skari with this, for example, if we look at some, like, when he gets done with Christmas stuff and starts, like, attending tournaments with this, potentially, you might see some spicy stuff.
Yeah, so, and actually, if you guys didn't know, so Skari and I are at war. We're going to war right now. So he and I got beef. We don't actually have beef. I love the guy. But if you don't know, my Discord versus his Discord, we have a TTS tournament that is starting on the 20th of January. If you want to join, if you want to choose a side between Skari or myself, you can sign up as a member either here on YouTube or Skari's Patreon. You got to choose. Do you want to be on his team or you want to be on my team? And you can hop on one of the teams, and we're going to have a teams TTS tournament. It's going to be 5 weeks long. And I got an entire video giving all the details for it, so you guys can jump in there if you'd like. But Skari's probably going to be running this, and I'm definitely going to be trying to smash him down. So join us, play, fight. Shetzel's going to be fighting too. He's going to be smashing some nerds as well, and vibing. I'm sure you'll be vibing, right?
Max points, max vibes. Let's go.
All right. So that's a really cool event that we're having between the two Discords. So we'd love to invite some of you guys to join us if you'd like to. All right, so let's move on to our next one. We're actually starting to close it out, which is pretty dang cool. Let's do Deathwatch. Bro, I love Deathwatch. I really, really love Deathwatch. And just as a quick aside, there are so many fascinating and interesting ways to be running Marines right now. It's pretty sick. Like, pretty dang sick. You could be running Lions Blade Task Force, Ultramarines in literally anything. Librarius Conclave is a real way to play Marines right now. I still think Righteous Crusaders and Black Templar is a real way to play it. Guys, that I love the Terminators with the 5 of Field of Pain. I don't see many people running it, but I love it. I think there are lots of ways that you can run Marines. My Bloody Road list that I took to the World Championships did not change at all and is still terrifying to behold. There are so many ways to be running Marines right now that is just freaking exciting. Oh my gosh. Deathwatch coming up is so cool. The freaking Indomitor kill team has just completely changed the game. Getting those freaking heavy bolt rifles for the heavy intercessors that are at damage 3, AP2, permanent lethal and sustained hits. Oh my gosh, Deathwatch has a lot of power behind it, and I've had a blast playing it. Now, I'm not good enough with it to take it to super high results, and I recognize that, because it's just not what I'm going to really focus into and I'm really going to lean into. But with the results I have had with it already, there is serious play with this Deathwatch, and I think they're a perfect B-tier army. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that Deathwatch now are just about where they were after WTC 2013. And that, it is a solid B tier. Like, they are maybe overshadowed by some of the other Marines. But it's not a wrong style to play. Like, if you want to play this and do some interesting things with it, because there are some interesting data sheets that enable stuff. And then if you have the right meta, all of a sudden they might be like the preferred way to run Marines again.
Dude, guys, uppy downy on your entire army is pretty sick. Like,
it's almost like that was a menace. That's been a menace ever since the Circuit Codex came out, right?
How about uppy downy on units that get bonuses from coming down? So Indomitors, when they get +2 strength when they're shooting things with just normal bolters that are actually damage 2 and lethal and AP2. And
yeah, because you have to consider this with all the other buffs Marines got.
Oh my gosh.
Freaking
Talon Strikes coming down with +1 AP, so you get to AP5 Plasma Exterminators. Ugh. So I love it. I think it's really, really cool. And I think solidly B tier is exactly where it goes. There's a lot of play that you can build with it. Let's do Necrons. Break it down for me, bud. You're the Necron guy. We know where it's going, but I want you to...
Yeah. It's going straight into S.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that Necrons have some of the best data sheets in the game.
Yeah.
Just flat out, on the base data sheets, you could run any detachment and still do well. Even in the ones that were a little bit bad and didn't work, like they all just work well because Necrons have some of the best data sheets in the game. This detachment has something that benefits all of those data sheets just as a baseline. People used to think, oh, it's a vehicle detachment because all vehicles and mounted get assault. But the entire army gets +1 to hit on objectives, which means that something like Ophidian suddenly hit on 2s with 5 attacks, and then there's a strat for +1 to wound. That one can get, which means that those Ophidians now wound other Marines on 3s, which means that they win any skirmish game for 80 points. They're cheaper than assault intercessors. They're about as fast, and they can up be downy and get +1 to wound and hit, and it's a lot.
The flayed ones, if you guys are in the Discord, we posted the damage output of the flayed ones in this detachment. Bro.
A 10-man flayed one unit will do, what is it, like 9 wound? No, 13. It kills a Lehman Russ. I think.
It did. It did kill a Lehman Russ. Which is bonkers.
If you have a Lehman Russ on an objective, you have to worry about the little crazy guys with skin over their faces.
Yeah. That's not a good place to be, by the way. You don't want your Lehman Russes to have to worry about flayed ones.
There's a lot to unpack with this detachment. Vehicles walking through walls, -1 damage, a reactive move when you've been shot, which means that your opponent either has to very much overcommit or just like plink at you.
Which doesn't work against Necrons.
Yeah, if you plink at Necrons, they just reanimate. -1 to wound, like it has all the strats you would want.
Yeah.
There is not a single bad strat here.
No.
The only thing that sort of like salvages this is that people lean too heavy into just staticky shooting pieces.
They do,
this.
For sure.
And that leaves you open to a weakness that Necrons have in general, which is the high pressure, high damage type list.
Yep.
GSC, if the guard gets a drop on them, they might just lose enough stuff. Creations of Bile might be a problem. Stuff like that.
I can tell you right now, my Warhorde is going to run through this army still. So while this is definitely straight up an S tier, and yes, it does need to tone down, I'm completely on board with everyone here. There is actual, real, no doubt counterplay against it.
Because if you go to a tournament, you will meet, like you already met, like probably 2 Necrons out of 5 games, just because they are so popular. Now you're going to meet 2 Star Shatter Necrons.
Yep.
So this is an army that you need to build for. You can't get away from building for this detachment.
And if you guys actually were here for like our opening monologue, one of the things that Shetzel was talking about was how much does the meta shift? And the reality is this is the type of detachment that can change a meta. This is a detachment that can change people to running pressure melee list. Cult of Bile completely crushes this. My Orks crush this. Lion's Blade has the potential to crush this. GSC can crush this. There are real melee armies that just absolutely obliterate this, and that can shift the entire meta. So while, yes, the detachment is strong, it's too strong, it is not without counterplay. And that actually can shift an entire meta to the point where you might wonder, oh, does this actually need to be toned down? The answer is yes, it does need to be toned down.
Yeah, because the guard detachment has counterplay.
Yeah.
Right. You bring navigators, you bring infiltrators, you bring techno-archaeologists, stuff like that, right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you don't rapid fire.
Exactly.
And then you don't get the board presence, and you still die like a guardsman.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that this is fair and it's completely balanced. It's not. No one's here is claiming that. Yes, Azuma, we see you. We know the new Black Templars detachment, which we'll talk about next, sucks. We understand that. And yes, this is Warhammer 40,000. There's no way we'll ever have perfect balance. It will never happen. If you want perfect balance, you're playing chess. That's not what 40K is. As a matter of fact, we don't want perfect balance. We want there to be counterplay to everything. We want an evolving meta. That's actually the point of the game.
So, I mean, but like he says, right? can Righteous Crusaders go into Star Shatter and win?
Yes, it
definitely.
can.
Right.
100%.
Those are the kind of lists that probably will do something here. Because if you have 40 Crusaders, you might not have enough shots even with the blast to get through it.
Yeah. You rapid Ingress that 10-man Terminator brick and you get it up in their grill. Boom. So there is a lot of counterplay to this attachment. So I don't want people to despair. Guys, this entire Grotmas was an amazing experience. We got so much cool stuff here. Yeah, there's a few things that are overtuned, but it's not even close to how it was overtuned at the beginning of this edition. All right, so it's not even close to the original things. So like, that's what it is. It's the strong. It's very, very strong. It needs to be toned down, but we have counterplay. Let's move on to the next one. I wanted to because I said it. Let's just do Black Templars. These suck. Everyone knows they suck. The problem is that the buffs are just too lackluster. The +2 to move, +1 to advance, not bad, but there's no advance in charge in the army. +1 strength to only melee weapons. That's a pretty bad buff. If that was just, hey, +1 strength to all weapons, including vehicles and stuff, okay, now we're talking. This is a classic example of a detachment that was keyworded out, I think.
So I have a question for your placing of it.
Yep.
If this is something that's considered like Gladius from Temu.com,
It's
why is it not the same as the Eldar, in that it also doesn't really do all that much? It has some interesting buffs that are technically all right.
Because the interesting buffs do not go on interesting units.
Crusaders aren't interesting. Sword Brethren aren't interesting.
Yeah, sure, they are. And if you're playing it as a full melee pressure list, like that is real. You could do that. And like I'm saying, there's not no play with this, but you don't have anything that you can fall back on. That is just like, hey, I'm still gonna be able to win games with it.
I'm just saying, maybe it needs a pointy-eared ally right next to it.
We'll get back to it. Let address me again. At me at the again, bro. All right. Jerk. I love you. Imperial Agents, guys. Just remember, Imperial Agents are not a real army. They are there as a kiss. GWs, they're just throwing you a little kiss on the cheek. They love you. They love you for being their fans. They appreciate you, so they made an Imperial Agents Codex. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. It's not a serious competitive army. It never will be. Do never get your hopes up for it.
The Imperial Navy detachment is cute. It can probably do things. You can probably go X and 1 with it if you're like very dedicated.
Yep.
But this detachment is there.
It's fun.
It's there to like have some fun Christmas games and
that's all
have
it is.
Beers and stuff, right?
That's all it is. And so it's like, realistically, if we're getting upset because Imperial Agents aren't good, just understand Imperial Agents will never be good, and just start setting expectations for yourself. I'm not saying it's correct, but it is the way it is. All right, let's talk about something that is very good, though. How about our new freaking Kroot? Bro, have you read this new Kroot detachment?
This detachment is so interesting for me, as someone that has dabbled with Tau, and I have some Tau, in that I almost decided to play some Tau this Christmas.
Okay.
I am not sure if it does enough right now with some of the nerfs that they got, but it is very interesting, and I look forward to seeing what some of the dedicated Tau players can do with this.
Bro, I am tempted to play this.
Like we've seen, like Kroot Rampagers with this do interesting things.
Oh my gosh.
There's a lot of damage there.
Rampagers.
There's a lot of nuances in this detachment as well, right?
Yep.
And I think now that Ret Cadre took the nerfs that it did, is this the go-to Tau detachment? I mean, just for that, and just what it does for Tau, I would almost say, like, as a detachment, this is probably like an A-tier detachment. I don't know if Tau by itself does it, but it's like at least top of B, right?
Oh yeah, I think. All right, so with this detachment, guys, what we have Tau shooting backed up by like actual melee threats and actual objective threats. like objective holding threats. Even your normal Kroot carnivores become kind of spicy in this detachment when you start giving them full rules to wound, bonus AP. Like this is, and I'm not saying it's a broken art unit that's going to fundamentally change the game. But when your opponent has to consider that a Kroot carnivore squad can punch up, that's a problem.
A way to look at this that I've been thinking for myself is that this plays a little bit like AdMech.
Yeah,
and
it does.
AdMech
It really
by
does.
itself is like generally considered an A-tier army.
Yeah.
So does this lift Tau into A-tier?
I think it
Maybe.
personally does. You know, at the initial drop, a lot of people were a little concerned because they were saying, well, it's going to be really hard to get the bonus AP because it's hard to get a Kroot unit within 9 inches. It's not. All your Kroot have Scout. You can advance and charge them. They're cheap enough with Kroot Hounds where you can just sacrifice a Kroot Hounds to nuke the thing that you need to nuke. It doesn't matter. Vespid have uppy downy. It's very easy to proc that. People were also
the uppy down. It doesn't put you within.
You know, touche. Good. Very good point. Very good point. Very good point. So
But-
I said a dumb thing.
But just having deep striking carnivores
Very
for
nice.
objective play is interesting. Rapid ingressing carnivores and stuff.
And let's not forget that Tau have lone op units, which means, yes, you have to be visible and wholly within 6 inches of a Tau unit to get the 18-inch lone op on your Kroot units. Tau have lone op units. So they can just stand out in the open and give it to them.
But just think about like the Kroot lone op guy, right? He can have for the greater good now, which means that he can spot and be lone op, and also
and he gives reroll hit rolls to the Rampagers that are going to be moving 14 inches with an advance and charge turn 1.
Yep, and he has a good gun to trigger those. And he gives, if he is within 12 inches of the Kroot Hounds, and the Kroot Hounds get the OC buff, suddenly they're OC 2, which means that you have 10 OC that go very, very fast and can auto 6.
Rerolls hit, reroll wound rolls.
So they can steal an objective and trigger the +1 AP. That's pretty big.
Dude, I absolutely adore this detachment, and I straight up am strongly considering perhaps I might play this. Like, it's possible that I would actually build a Tau army, which is kind of like heresy if you guys have ever spoken to me about Tau. Yeah. So with that, let's move on. Tau's awesome. I'm gonna throw them top of B. Maybe they go bottom of A. I'm not sure. I don't really think it matters, to be honest with you. Flybone Host, Death Guard.
I think people are sleeping on this one.
I agree. No.
Because they are addicted to the contagions from the Plague Host detachment.
Yep.
I think that this probably has more impact for us as teams players. As it's, I've seen people use this for really, really good.
Yeah, so I've played against it a few times now. I think people severely underestimate how hard it is to handle an entire army like Death Guard, where basically everything can be -1 to be wounded, and now they're -1 to be shot. And you can give them all 6 up Fiona Pain if you want to take the Demon Prince. I'm not saying you do take the Demon Prince, but there's just so many buffs you can stack on this that your opponents just can't handle. My Bloody Rose army, Bloody Road army, is a crazy shooting list. And I focus fired my entire army into a unit of Deathshroud Terminators and killed 3 of them. Like, yes, there were some small spikes, but they weren't insane spikes. And it's like that's wild when you really think about it. Like, this army is tough, and they can get to where they need to go. Now, there are lots of very counterplay. I recognize, yes, if you drop your infiltrators first, you turn off their scout moves. There's a lot of things that you have to consider, but there is real play on this. So I'm very comfortable dropping them bottom of B tier.
I think probably for singles play, B tier sounds about right.
Yeah, for teams, perhaps we could actually bump it up a little bit, but yeah. Let's do Tyranids. This is one of the detachments that I'm in love with. I think Tyranids are freaking amazing. The Warrior Bioform. Guys, can I just break this down for you? You can have freaking 72 T5, 3 wound bodies that can regenerate. They have a 5-up invulnerable save. They can all be stealth because it's very easy just to get Venom Throats within 6 inches of everything. You can take a Psychophage, which can hit at least like 4 of the units with its aura to give them all 6 of Fiona Pains. You can flood the board with so many just tough bodies that are all OC3. This is a cool detachment. This is a really, really cool detachment. You can get an X-Crin shooting at strength 11. This is a cool detachment. This is a really cool detachment. You're backing up. It's just standard good tier Nid stuff. Double X-Crin. You're going to take a Rupture Effects, maybe 2 Rupture Effects, with just cheap as heck warrior bodies that are more durable per points cost than Custodes bodies are. I love it. I love the detachment. I absolutely love it. I can't ever run it because there's no way I'm buying that many warriors, but I love it.
Yeah, I personally haven't looked at this too much. Tyranids will always be one of those armies for me.
Mhm.
So I will trust your judgment on this.
Yeah, so the way I look at it, because I've played it a couple times now. I've played as it a couple times. I've played it against it a couple times. I'm putting it top of B tier. Initially, I actually thought it was higher up, but then we got some of the other detachment releases as well.
I have to make like a little correction.
Yeah, please do.
I can't check it because I don't have the Tau Codex in the app.
Okay.
There is a chance that crew towns are OC dash and not OC 0. And that means they can't get extra OC, just so that we are not spreading disinformation.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Yeah, Shekel, thanks so much for popping that in. Appreciate you fact checking us on that one, bud. All right, so we're closing it out. We don't have that many left. Let's go ahead and do the Votann. We can get this out of the way. Yes, the Votann detachment, controversial opinion. I think the detachment is good. I understand all the rage and fury at the Votann detachment, though. The rage and fury.
Votann detachment probably has the same issue as the Thousand Suns detachment in that it is there for rules that aren't live yet.
Correct. Right? If you read the detachment for just if we read this detachment and we say, oh, let's take an army that has no army rules, this detachment is good. The problem is that it doesn't work with the army rules. The entire army rules for the Votann is broken and stupid, and it sucks. It's just really, really bad, which is why the index detachment is almost required to even have an army rule.
Yeah, you need tokens to do things, and without tokens, you don't really do that much.
That's the problem. The detachment's rule set is objectively good. When we get a codex, so I'm gonna put it in dumpster for right now, but this is a caveat that I really want everyone to understand. It's not the detachment's fault, it is the army rules fault. And I have it on very good authority, like very good authority. The army rules getting getting a complete rewrite with the codex release. So if you're upset by this one, I understand, because we want to be able to use our armies in fun ways. It actually is a fun detachment. It's just your army rule sucks so much that you can't use a detachment other than the one which buffs your army rule. So that's unfortunate. And I think this was kind of a miss for GW, but it's not the detachment's fault. It's the actual index's fault. So dumpster for right now, but not because of the detachment, to be clear. We have 3 left. These 3 are all very interesting. Interestingly enough, I don't have all that much to say about the Blood Angels. I think the Blood Angels, I've been looking at cooking with it, but I just can't get off of my current Blood Angel army. So I think I need eyes. I need a different perspective on eyes for this one. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. Because you are so used to your style.
Exactly.
And what you've been playing for like over a year now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone fresh needs to jog something there.
I think so. When I read the rules are cool. Reroll hit rolls of 1, wound rolls of 1 on all character units. Very powerful. I can turn any unit that's not led into a character unit at will. Very, very nice. That means I can take a 6-man unit of Eradicators. I can let them be led by or aggressors or whatever, and let them be led by a unit, and suddenly they get reroll 1s to hit and wound. I have a sustained hits 1 strat, so suddenly I can have, if I want to lead with an Apothecary Biologus, I can have a pseudo Fire Discipline, Eradicator unit, aggressor unit. There's a lot of things that I can run in this army. I can run 3-man Sanguinary Guard units and just have them count as being a character unit if I need to. There's a lot of interesting things I can run in this detachment. I just haven't really brought myself to cook with it yet. I think it's a very, very good B tier army. It's not bad. There is some cool stuff we can do with it. I just haven't identified it yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that this probably enables a more...
It does.
Generalized, like it looks like a combined arms type detachment for Blood Angels.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of like the Bloody Road, where that is more Iron Stormy.
Yep.
This one becomes more like Gladius style army, right?
Yeah.
Because you have good strats
That's a
in
really good
general,
point.
right?
That's a really good point. So one thing I see this army doing is it really enables your infantry shooters. So suddenly Hellblasters are interesting here. Eradicators are interesting here. Aggressors, which are still overcosted, are interesting here. But like your vehicles don't necessarily benefit because vehicles can't be character units. You don't have an advance and shoot strat. I think if they had made it where instead of having reroll advances, reroll charges, which is cool, is interesting. If they had made it, you can advance a charge, then this would have been actually broken. So I think that's why they did it. But they were kind of threading a line of making something interesting and new and something that's just like, it's cute, but maybe I won't. But like I said, I'm not sold on this one. I'm gonna leave it in B because I can definitely see some good things you can do with it. I think it's a fine detachment when it comes to just strength level. So I'm gonna leave it at B. I need to cook with it more before I can give you guys a better opinion on this one. Just because it's one of my armies and I want to give a good opinion. So I'm just gonna leave it there for right now. It's good, it's useful, and I'll come up with a list eventually, and I'll break it down for you guys how we're gonna make this thing rock.
Mm.
We got two left. We got the World Eaters, and we've got the Space Puppies. Now everyone's gonna rage when I say Space Puppies, but here's the deal: I might be the only person alive right now who really loves the new Space Wolves. Let me tell you why I love the Space Wolves. The new Space Wolves have a rule that existed in 9th edition called Heroic Intervention, which is very different than the Heroic Intervention in 10th edition. At the end of your opponent's charge phase, any unit that is within 3 inches, you can charge with any unit in your army. This means it's going to be almost impossible for your opponent to ever charge 1 unit. There's an enhancement to make this up to 6 inches. This means that your army cannot be move blocked. This means that your opponent can never charge just 1 unit. I'm seeing right off the bat initially, I'm going to take 3 squads of Blade Guard vets led by Justiciars, or something else led by Justiciars. And then I'm going to fight first in my opponent's fight phase every single time. It's going to be impossible for them to ever get away with it. I'm going to have a unit of Terminators. And these Terminators, perhaps I give them fights first, but in all reality, I'm probably going to give them fall back and shoot and charge. I'm going to rapid ingress my Librarian who's leading my Terminators. They're going to have sustained hits and lethal hits in both melee and shooting. And this detachment has so many cool things. I'm going to take Wolf and Dreadnoughts for 130 points. If you look at their data sheet, a Wolf and Dreadnought for 130 points is ludicrous. I don't even care that they're OC0 because I can sticky objectives. I can do it with Intercessors or I can do it with a strat. I really screw my opponent's target prioritization with this army. It's not broken. It's not going to be S tier. It's not even going to be A tier. But there is going to be real play for this thing in B tier. I think it basically 100% counters almost any melee army in the game. And I love it. I think it's a really, really cool thing. It's not even reliant on Oath of Moment because since you're Space Wolves, you can always take Logan Grimmirror, which can give your entire army reroll all hit rolls in one of your fight phases. So you're not even reliant on Oath of Moment. This is a sick detachment that people just love to hate. I have a few lists I've already messed around with, and I'm trying to collect a little bit more Space Wolves. Actually, I might take some of the Super Chat stuff from today and collect Space Wolves. If you guys want to see Space Wolves on the channel, let me know. Because there's some real play here, and I'm really excited to drill through it. After this week, the next week or two, when my wife and I get into the routine of making sure the baby's taken care of, I'll be able to drill a lot more games with this. But I am very hype on this Space Wolf detachment. Once again, not because I think it's broken. It's not S tier. It's not A tier. I think it's solidly B tier or top of C tier, perhaps. This could actually be one of those things where only faction specialists are really going to crush it. Do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I think that's pretty much nailing it. This is one of those detachments where I don't think that the meta impact on things like melee armies is properly evaluated. Right. If
Right.
this thing starts becoming a thing, does that mean that Bile just drops out because they can never get out from facing that one Space Wolf player that makes them go X and 1 instead of winning a GT?
Oh, bro, this is
right. Is that a thing? Right. Those are things that we need played down the line to evaluate.
Bro, this is such a great point you just brought up. And so let me just illuminate this here real quick. Everyone knows Star Shatter is busted. What is Star Shatter's weakness? Melee pressure list. So now we're going to start seeing a lot of more melee pressure list. Everyone says Space Wolves suck, but they're really good in melee pressure list. So now our Space Wolves broken because everyone's running melee pressure list. That's what we're talking about with this tier list. It's not as simple as detachment X is good, detachment Y is bad. It's really not that simple because as the meta shifts, there's going to be times when all of these things really have their moments. And I think the Space Wolves are freaking cool. So I'm going to put them bottom of B, I think. I don't think they deserve C tier.
I would probably be like more mid-ish B.
Sure. If you're more Minister to be, I'm gonna take it. We're on the same page. And fine, I'll go and throw the freaking Eldar at the top of D tier. Fine, whatever. Jonathan's dumb. He had bad takes. All right. I just don't like listening to people complain and bitch and moan. That's all it is.
I understand the negative reaction.
I just don't
but
like
in
listening
this,
to people bitch and moan.
nobody likes listening to elf players anyways. But in this respect, we can maybe throw them a little bone.
All right, we got two super chats real quick. We got Bonsai Kitty, my guy with the $5 super chat. New Raptors Vanguard player. Ooh, Raptors. Okay, that's an interesting choice. Very cool. Thoughts on 400 points for Space Marines AT? What do you know what he means by that, Shuttle? Is
Attack.
Oh,
so Vindicators, Predators. Vindicators and Predators.
Yeah, I love Predators, by the way. I think Predators are so good. At 130 points, Predators are so good. If you're running Raptors and you're not taking a lot of unique characters, and you're definitely going to get the +1 bonus from the wound from the Oath of Moment target, Ballistas become bonkers, just so you know. So I would
and if you're not, afraid of taking some named characters, you can take them and they can be your dudes. You can convert them.
Yeah.
Uriel Venters to give Deep Strike to send Devastator Centurions. That's still a prime unit for killing just about anything.
All those last cannons at +1 to wound now. Oh. AP4 ignore cover if you want to take them in whatever. Like,
yes, sir.
Dude. So yeah, absolutely. Those anti-tank stuff. Predators are great. Vindicators are great. I like Ballistas a lot more, especially with the new Oath Moment changes. But like Shetzel said, think about those Scent Devs. They are gross. And we got Mass Bro Effect. He says, no, I can only do Blood Angels. I'm not allowed to play Space Wolves. Okay, fine. You've convinced me. I'll play more Blood Angels. I love you, buddy. Appreciate you. We've got the last one. This is the last detachment here, and this is the World Eaters. Shetzel, what are your general thoughts about this World Eaters detachment?
So I've been discussing this a bit with Adam Yog from the Discord, the OG Yog, not the Yog Saron type Yog, because there's two of them now.
Yeah.
And one of the things this does is add consistency to the blessings. You will still take Angron.
Yep.
You will 100% still take Angron.
Yep, of course.
Whoever says that this is a non-Gron detachment should get a little slap in the face.
Yeah.
A little flick on the dick, as you say.
Flick on the dick.
Because that is the best datasheet you have in a World Eaters.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah.
And what this does is it allows you to get lucky on an Angron Resurrection, and still have two blessings.
Yep.
One of the problems with this detachment is that, and this is a good point for a lot of these. There are a couple of rules in the detachments that are a bit sloppily written.
Sure.
For example, in Halo Screed, the detachment that gives you fallback, shoot, and charge, and re-roll Desperate Escapes, is triggered. Like, you have to use the strat after you would roll the Desperate Escape, so then you can't re-roll it. Like, that thing never gets used. In World Eaters, if 3 8-bound charge a 5-man scout squad, you still can't use the sticky rule, because you check control at the start of the round or the end of the round. But when you've killed them and you need to use the strat, you still don't control the objective.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So you can't actually use it, right? So those are things, and if there are things like that, they will get addressed.
They're fixed.
Probably in January, when these things get added to the app and so forth.
I would probably encourage you just to play it as you know it's intended, right? As for right now.
Yeah. That being said, sticky on death is a lot better than sticky on kill. The strat for the extra roll, so that you can have another chance to get Angron back in your turn and then rapid ingress him in the opponent's turn, is probably also significantly good.
Yep.
being able to -1 damage is very significant, and +1 to wound, combined with the extra attack that you get, is, I think, is mathematically better than reroll wounds.
So here's the deal, right?
So a thing you have to consider here is the consistency of the blessings and the strats that you have here an overall decent package compared to the indexed attachment.
My thoughts on this is that it's not about is this better than the index attachment, because I don't think it is. I think it's every bit as good as the index attachment. The question you have to ask yourself as a World Eaters player, and I am as much a melee pressure in your fest player as anyone out there, is do you need that 16% extra damage that the index detachment gives you? Because in this detachment, what I get is suddenly I can build 1 unit of Terminators. I don't have to take 3 unit of Terminators. In this detachment, suddenly, I can guarantee that the only 3 units, because I'm never charging more than 3 units of my army in a turn anyway, except for in very rare scenarios, I can guarantee those 3 units will get the advanced charge whenever I need them to have it. In this detachment, I can guarantee that I can get the advanced charge and still have both sustained and lethal on those 3 death units that are going up.
But will those Terminators?
As an example, man, we don't need to do a unit breakdown.
But like if you look at it, right, will those Terminators be as effective without that extra attack and +1 to wound?
Yeah, because now they can have guaranteed sustain and lethal and advance without having to think about it. For example, right?
Maybe
the consistency of knowing what buff you can have in addition to the random buffs is so powerful. The ability to have perhaps a demon prince that can just walk through the wall is so nice. Now it's worth it to have all of your 8-bound just having that 4 invuln at all times. I think this detachment is awesome. I think it doesn't beat out the old index detachment. That's not my claim. My claim is now we're going to build very different or potentially very different army lists that can be run at roughly the same level. Because even though, yes, there is an initial damage debuff, you're also going to have guaranteed damage buffs in here and movement buffs in here that you wouldn't get elsewhere. And don't forget, if you have Karn leading a unit of Khorne Berserkers and you're like, oh, sorry, Karn can't be the Vessel of Hatred to get the bonus blessing, the champion of the unit can, though. So the unit can still get it. So this is a pretty damn cool detachment, and I was really surprised by it. I thought they were going to give us like either an allied detachment or they were going to give us a demon, like a demon engine style detachment. My argument is that this is more to the top of B because that's where I think the index is, and I think they're about the same power level.
That's fair. I would say like mid-low B maybe, but it's like.
So I think this is it, guys. I think we freaking did it. S tier is going to be Necrons, Bile, and the Guard. I'm going to put Bile at the bottom of that. I think it's definitely Guard and Necrons. I personally think I disagree. Bile is going at the top of it. I can't do it. I just can't do it. I don't think that there's any emergency that Bile is causing that Bile needs to be nerfed. So I just can't do it, guys. So Guard and Necrons are going to take the top 2 spots. I think that's completely fair. I don't think that's a big surprise to anyone. Our A tier is going to be rounded out with Bile, the New Gene Stealer Cults, freaking 15 Lone Ops. Oh my god. Then we've got Lion's Blade Detachment. We've got the Tactical Brigade for the Orks. We've got the Halos Creed for the Admech. And then generally speaking, for the Demons. We know Slaanesh is probably maybe a little bit stronger. Tzeentch is going to be weird in singles, but maybe amazing in teams. B tier is just freaking everyone. Everyone's rocking B tier, which is one of the things that I love. Then we've got Sisters and Imperial Guard, Imperial Knights that are rounding out C tier. And then D tier, this is a little bit of a shame. More D tier stuff than what I wanted to see. But remember, if your army is in D tier, guys, keep this in the context of the fact that the rules for all of these attachments are written for your codex, not for your index will disappear. And when you get a codex, what you're going to find is suddenly almost all of the new detachments in your codex are specifically going to be keyword locked. You're not going to have these sweeping indexes that just benefit freaking everything. It's just not going to happen anymore. Basically, every codex has followed the same standard releases. So you're not going to have these amazing indexes that just benefit freaking everything anymore. So just breathe, understand these detachments are made for your codex, and just keep a positive outlook. If you're not happy with your Grotmas detachment, it's okay. Play your old stuff that you already loved. Have fun with Warhammer. Guys, I'm as competitive as it gets. Shetzel is as competitive as it gets. We stay up awake at night trying to make this game, trying to like power scale this game and make everything stronger and optimize absolutely everything. Like, trust me, we lose sleep over this. But we love Warhammer. And that's what we really want to encourage you guys to do, just to understand that Warhammer is amazing. And the game's awesome. And this Grotmas gift is a gift. Yeah, there's a few things that are disappointing, but it was a gift. So But Mountain, you were the top super chatter, buddy. Please add me. Since I don't think we're gonna make it right now, just because you haven't responded, but message me on Discord. I'd love to help you build a new list for your competitive detachment of your choice. Guys, jump in the Happy Carpet Wargaming Discord. We are going to war with Scary, and we have got to crush them. So yeah, I think that's awesome. Anyway, Shuttle, any closing remarks?
Nope. Happy New Year, everyone. Let's kick some ass and win some GTs come the new year.
It's time to crump. It's so time to crump. Anyway, we're gonna sign off. You guys rock. Love y'all. Appreciate your attention. And until next time, happy crumping. Bye bye.